Whoa, breaking news, breaking news. The indictments against James Comey and Tish James has been dismissed by a federal judge. Oh my goodness, folks, an embarrassment for the Trump administration. The Trump administration appointed Lindsey Halligan as the prosecutor for the Eastern District of Virginia, and a federal judge says she wasn't appointed correctly. And because of that technicality, the indictments against Comey and Tish James dismissed without prejudice. So let's talk, folks. Let me give you some information about what's going on here with these two indictments that we've been covering extensively on JLR Investigates. The media has spoken about this, and I'm going to share this clip, and then we will further discuss. Check it out.
Senior White House correspondent Weijia Zhang. Weijia, we know that President Trump had a keen interest in these two cases. Has there been any reaction at the White House yet to this announcement?
John, as of right now, we have not heard from the White House or directly from President Trump, who, you're right, certainly expressed how he felt about these two cases in the days leading up to the indictments of both Comey and James. In fact, he posted on Truth Social on September 20th, just 5 days before Comey was indicted. And it seemed to be a direct message to Pam, meaning Pam Bondi, who was, of course, the Attorney General of the United States, in which Trump said he had reviewed over 30 statements and posts saying that essentially same old story as last time, all talk, no action, nothing is being done. What about Comey, Adam Shifty Schiff, Letitia, question mark, question mark, question mark. They're all guilty as hell. And of course, he goes on to explain why he believes they are guilty, all of these people being his people that he considers to be political foes. And in the past, John, he has called for their prosecution, too. The reason why this particular post is notable is not only because the timing, but because there were questions later about whether the president meant to make them public or whether they were supposed to be a direct message to the Attorney General, which later he denied. So at this hour, we have not heard yet about Trump's reaction. But, John, you can imagine that it will be one of disappointment and frustration, since he has spent so much time claiming that the only reason that he himself was investigated by these two law enforcement officials was because of a witch hunt. That's according to Trump. John?
All right. Thank you so much, Weijia Zhang at the White House. Criminal defense attorney Caroline Polisi is with us on the phone. Caroline, your reaction to this determination by the judge?
Yeah, hi, John. I wanted to pick up something that Scott mentioned. This is not a complete victory for Comey, to be sure, because it was dismissed without prejudice. They were looking for a dismissal with prejudice. However, this is seriously going to set this prosecution. It's going to really derail the prosecution, and the person bringing this prosecution next, if they do, will not be likely Lindsey Halligan. The sixth finding in Judge Curry's order is that the power to appoint the interim U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia under the statute lies with the district court. Remember, this judge is sitting by designation from South Carolina, because the district in which the case is pending, all of those judges recused themselves, essentially, because that was the overarching issue in this appointment, whether that 120 days could effectively just be re-upped and re-upped by the president and Pam Bondi indefinitely for, essentially skirting the appointments clause. And so while it's not, a complete and total victory, I think this case is not going to go to trial anytime soon, not to mention the myriad of other substantive issues that are in this case that are pending before a different judge in this district regarding, the selective and vindictive prosecutions, issues with the warrants, a ton of ways this cookie could crumble.
Right. Caroline Polisi, thank you. I want to go back now to Scott MacFarlane. Scott, among any new information you may also have, remind us put in context the idea of a president telling an attorney general who they should and should not charge.
A lot of people were eager to hear the arguments and the judge's opinion on this issue of vindictive prosecution. Last week, James Comey was in court. remarkable thing, arguing that this case was a political selective prosecution. That argument really isn't relevant anymore now that the case is dismissed. Not relevant to this case, but John, there are any number of political critics of the president who fear they face the same prospect of a criminal prosecution because of their criticism. They might have wanted to have seen what a judge said about this issue of selective vindictive prosecution if they too get charged in the coming weeks and the coming months. As we just mentioned, John, there's another name on that September 20th social media post from President Trump. California Senator Adam Schiff, who CBS News has learned has hired a private attorney with the prospect he gets charged down the road as well. All of these defendants, all these people have denied any wrongdoing.
Scott MacFarlane, a major bend in the road here for the Trump presidency and Justice Department as we learn the new rules under which both are operating. Once again, the federal indictments against former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James have just been dismissed. A judge ruled prosecutor Lindsey Halligan was improperly appointed.
Is getting dismissed. The judge ruling the appointment of interim U.S. Attorney Lindsey Halligan violated the Constitution. The judge also criticized the DOJ for allowing an FBI agent who viewed Comey's privileged materials to testify to the grand jury. Now, the judge also tossed the case against Letitia James. Donna, we are just getting this on the wire. Talk to us about your top line thoughts in this moment.
Well, frankly, I'm not really surprised about the appointment of the Attorney General on that situation. I did think that that was going to be an issue, and I did think from the very beginning that Comey was going to have a valid legal argument. And what's interesting about the decision is it doesn't go to whether or not crimes are actually committed. It just goes to the way in which the prosecutor was appointed. So I'm not surprised legally when it comes to that issue.
Right. Do we foresee at all then an appeal or a different than prosecution, a second bite of the apple then with procedural things intact?
I would just, I mean, yes, it's a 29-page opinion. I was just reading through it. So sorry if I look distracted during our segment. It doesn't get to the claim of malicious prosecution that Jim Comey was making. So this is solely the appointments clause, and that's why you have both cases dismissed against both individuals.
Right.
And it is kind of interesting, though, because obviously that's kind of a fluke side ruling, not on the merits of the case. But it is kind of interesting how all of these fluke side rulings always tend to seem to go in the same direction.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Without prejudice, dismissed means prosecution can refile the charges. They, the attorneys for both Tish James and James Comey, were trying to get it dismissed with prejudice so they can't get charges refiled. But it looks like possibly they'll get charged again. I don't think this goes away. Definitely an embarrassment for the Trump administration. And there's others that possibly could get indicted here. We're talking about Schiff. We're talking about, down there in the Southern District of Florida with Comey and Clapper and maybe Obama situation. John Bolton. Maybe some of them will use the kind of tactics here to try to get their indictments dismissed. I'm not necessarily sure it will work on them, but possibly out of the Eastern District of Virginia, no more politicians will be indicted as long as Lindsey Halligan is there. Maybe nobody will get indicted anymore. Maybe they'll have to try to figure out another way to do it. What do you think, folks? Crazy times we're living in. James Comey, former FBI director. Tish James, Attorney General of New York. Powerful stuff, folks. JLR Investigates. We're definitely monitoring the situation. Hit the notification button. Do you think that was a proper call by the judge, the federal judge? Some people are calling it a judicial coup out there. Or, federal judges taking sides here and using ways to benefit their side. Let me know what you think about the federal judge, the whole process in general. I'll be reading your comments. We will talk soon. JLR Investigates. Stay tuned.